Hello, this video will show you how to use RSETPy to index the data that we just downloaded in a previous video. So from the previous video we downloaded 2010 MODIS data for the month of January, and now in order to keep track of that data and to be able to find it quickly, RSETPy requires an index of the data. So it reads the data files and then puts the locations of the data files in the database. So this video will show you how to get RSETPy to accomplish that step. Okay, so to configure RSETPy to index the data into a database, we're going to open up Notepad. So I go to my Start menu, and Notepad is already in the quick links in my Start menu. So I'm just going to right-click and important again, run as administrator. And if Windows asks for administrator access, say yes. Okay, so now I'm going to open the main.in configuration file from the previous video. You'll remember it's in C, Program Files x86, NMSU, RSETPy, input. And we'll change the filter to all files and open. Okay, now from the previous video you'll remember that we activated the downloads action of RSETPy by changing the 0 to a 1. We're now going to deactivate that by changing it back to a 0. And we're going to reactivate, or we're going to activate actually, sorry, the database indexing. So we're going to change that to a 1. So now RSETPy is going to skip the downloads process and perform the database indexing process. So we'll save. So the next thing we want to do is we now want to configure RSETPy to be able to connect to our MySQL database server. So you should remember all your configurations for for your RSETPy database and user that you went through, performed to create a database and database user. So I'm going to open in the same location as the main.in configuration file. I'm going to open the database.in configuration file. Okay, this file asks for the values that are required to access the database. Remember, we're running the database on the same machine as we're running RSETPy, so the DB_host stays the same as localhost. The DB name from the previous video, I named it RSETPy _DB. The username that accesses that database is RSETPy user. And then the password I gave RSETPy user is RSETPy password. We're going to leave wipe_db_tables_all set to 0. If we set that to 1, that would mean that when RSETPy starts up, if there's any tables that already exist that have indexed the data, it'll wipe those clean. So it's a good way to kind of start from scratch, but since we don't have anything in there, we're going to leave that the same. So we're going to save this. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to tell the database where the data is that we want indexed. So we're going to open. We're going to change the filter to all files. And then we're going to open the sources.in. Okay, so the sources.in tells RSETPy that when you're indexing data into the database, that these are the sources that we want to look for to index. So it looks a little bit similar to the to some of the downloads configuration files, where we have a groups section, which I'm highlighting, and then a groups to process, which tells RSETPy what groups under the groups section to use. And right now we have group 2 and group 3 listed in that list. Unfortunately, group 2 and group 3 don't really point to anything that we have according to our previous videos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy group 3, and then I'm going to paste it under group 3 subsection, and then I'll name it group 4, group underscore 4. So I'm going to keep the type the same as modus. If you remember, the base path was E, so I'm going to actually just change it to E and 2010, so that we're just indexing the 2010 data, which of course only has the January data as well. The extensions variable tells us, or asks what extensions to look for. In this case, it's HDF or H5, which is what the modus data is. And the converter tells RSETPy to look for an H4 to H5 converter, so that we convert the H4 files to H5 before indexing them into the database. So now that we've created that group underscore 4 up here in groups to process, I'm just going to go ahead and delete the group 2 and group 3 and type in the single quote group underscore 4 in single quote comma, and then I'm going to save and then exit. That concludes configuring RSETPy to index the data that we downloaded. In the next video, we'll cover the actual downloading and show you what the database looks like after the data has been processed and indexed. Thank you.